Where are you on Farhan now? Because there's a bunch of answers to that. But the reason I ask is I have spent the better part of 4 years on the air in this city with my dukes up, and my dukes are bruised. I have taken a beating for, admittedly, probably being too soft on Farhan Zaidi. Too accepting, I actually would say, would be the better way. And the whole thing has kind of reached a fever pitch this offseason. But here's what I will say. Whenever I got into a debate about Farhan or the philosophy of the Giants, all of the things that people would say were kind of dispelled over the last 3 months. It doesn't mean you got to like him, but cheap, can't close, and can't put players that you've heard of on the roster. Well, that's all gone. That's all gone. And oh, by the way, you've built a baseball team that no one wants to join. So those were the things people hammered him on. And obviously, you can still be totally against him. You just have to come up with, I guess, new reasons.
Well, what do you want from your president of baseball operations? What I'd say, Mark, like over the years, that position has changed. Like Brian Sabian wasn't out front talking all the time. He was kind of a behind-the-scenes guy, really confident, almost a godfather type figure that just knew how to put together a winning team, how to assemble a winning team. And that position has changed over the years from general manager to now president of baseball operations. The front office is more involved on a daily basis. They're getting the analytics department together. They're getting the lineups together. They're giving you options. They're more involved on an everyday basis. Back in the old days, when the Giants won 3 championships, I know it sounds weird to say old days, it was, here's your team, Felipe, Dusty, Boch. You do what you want with it. My job is done here. You come to me if you need somebody. If you don't like this guy in left field, come to me, we'll get somebody else. It wasn't always front and center, press conference. You're involved in the everyday fabric. But that's just the way the game has evolved. So now that position has changed where they're more out in front. They're more front and center. I mean, I used to love the days when Sabian and Ralph Barbieri would go at it. Yep, they would get in arguments on the air.
Yep.
But they had constructive disagreements every day, whether it was Boch and Sabian, whether it was Ned Colletti and Sabian. They would fight, they would argue, they would flush it and come back the next day and do something to make the team better. And the goal was, if we have confrontation that's constructive, that's a good thing. I want to know what you're thinking. So maybe over the last 2 years, or 3 years, or whatever it was when Gabe was here, the philosophy was the same. Like, if you and I did a radio show every day together and we agreed on everything, and it was just, I mean, how and the ratings were terrible, like, something needs to change. Mm-hmm. So Gabe and Farhan, they agreed. They were joined at the hip on their philosophies on baseball, and the sabermetrics and the analytics and matchups and getting the edge, however way they could. And sometimes you get so entrenched in your philosophies, you start to forget that there's human beings inside those jerseys. And what wins over the long haul for me is the chemistry in the clubhouse, me loving my teammates, and me wanting to go to win for my manager. And when you had a guy like Brian Sabian, it was just a different era. It was more behind the scenes. I'm a baseball guy. I'm a scout. I'm a general manager. And now it's more MIT guys and smart guys and that are involved every day. Not that it's a bad thing. It's just changed. So what I'm getting to in a long-winded way, we got 4 hours to kill today, is that Farhan's role is different from Brian Sabian's role. And he is more front and center, and he is out there, and he is leaving himself more susceptible to criticism for a lot of different reasons, whether it's who he signs, who he doesn't sign. The cheap part is never a knock to me on the GM or the president of baseball operations.
That's on ownership.
And they offered $700 million to 2 players last offseason, didn't land them.
Right.
So I don't know if I buy the cheap part. And look what they spent this year in the offseason. They're over the luxury tax. So that part's, I think, unfair. Now, is it a likability factor? Is it that he's just not what we're used to here, and it's different, and the team, and it's more sterile, and it's more, like I always say, nobody ever sprinted to math class. It wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to get to math. And that's kind of what we've been watching. We've been watching math at the corner of 3rd and King, a lot of math. And we want to see baseball. We see 1st to 3rd. We want to see you read a ball in the dirt. See you break up a double play. Want to see you steal a base. Want to see you score on a gapper. Want to see you bunt a guy over. How about hitting behind the runner and a leadoff double? Doing the little things, playing hard, getting dirty, pitching the hell out of it, catching the hell out of it. That's what we want to see.
Well, you brought up a word, and it's been brought up often through the years, and I think I'm done with it as far as a ticket purchasing individual to go to a game, and this can be any sport. Do you know what I don't want to be able to answer anymore? I don't want to be able to answer this question. Hey, what's your team's philosophy? I don't want to be able to answer it.
How about just say winning?
Yeah. Like, can you just be good?
Let's be good.
Be good.
Play hard. Win.
What's the 49ers philosophy?
Winning.
What's the Warriors philosophy?
Winning.
What's the Giants philosophy?
Winning. It has
that's
been.
How it feels now, but that's the point. Like, I could give you little answers about the Warriors, and Steve Kerr kind of likes to do it this way. Kyle Shanahan kind of likes to do it that way, but I couldn't have given you a paragraph on what's the 49ers or Warriors philosophy. But the last 4 years with the Giants, I could. Well, yeah, here's how they like to do it. Well, that's just not, if nothing else, it's not fun. And then if it doesn't work, then it really stinks. So now I think that whole word gets challenged. And that's what I mean by who's running this thing. Because it appears that all the things that we have used to describe the philosophy have been thrown out the window. Farhan Zaidi has been the one word or phrase that I heard constantly is he likes to win on the margins. I've heard that over and over again, and I get it. It's like, I'm going to get this little advantage on you because we're going to, you remember the whole, like, the platoon of Yaz and Ruff in right field was the same OPS as Mookie Betts. Cool. Now they're like, why don't we just get Mookie Betts? Do you know what I mean? Like, why do I need to philosophically try to achieve something when, and this is at the core of the whole point, and I'm so glad you brought it up, you're the Giants. Like, even think of the word. Stop acting so small. And I'm not talking just to them. I'm talking to the fans too. There's this big old inferiority complex that has been developed over the last 5 years that I loathe. Loathe it. The idea that this in some way is undesirable or this roster is got too many warts and this organization is too cheap and lacks class and all of the things that this has never been. And somehow I'm looking at standings in the National League and people don't say that about franchises like the Cincinnati Reds or the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Colorado Rockies who are constantly rebooting and making stupid decisions. Like, we can't afford, why am I blanking on my third baseman over with the Cardinals now, who was the Rockies guy?
Arenado.
Yeah. We can't afford Arenado, but 4 seconds later, we're going to go 7 years for Chris Bryant. What the hell are you even doing? You're just an oddball franchise. But that's not here. That's never been here. And that's what I've hated most. And if I were to blame this regime for something, it's that. Because they drove this bus into a spot where one of the great franchises of this sport feels small. It feels inferior. And that's what's bled into the fans. We go, oh, it lacks excitement. No. Fans almost had to, not tell their friends that they were coming to the game because you had to explain it.
Well, you had the cheat codes in 2021, but based on your margins thing, the game has evolved so quickly based on the rule changes, based on no shift, based on bigger bases, the throw-over limits, all the new rules in baseball. The game has changed immensely in the last year. So this hit the ball in the air over the shift thing and building a team that does that and having that philosophy, that's old news. And that's only 2 years ago. So the way the rules have changed in baseball have changed the game completely. So you're hoping that Farhan's smart enough to realize that even though they had the cheat codes in 2021 and everything they did had the Midas touch, it worked, 107 wins, that might have been the worst thing to ever happen to that team, to win 107 games by the margins with players that maybe weren't superstars to think that you had the cheat codes. All of a sudden, the cheat codes don't work, and the philosophy's not working, and the fans are saying, we don't like this philosophy. And I don't think there's any organization more in tune with their fan base than the Giants. They realize that they have the smartest, greatest fans in all of baseball, and they listen. And now here we are in 2024 with the left-hander can pull a ball through the hole, and there can be a first to third, and speed and athleticism are back in the game. And you might actually see a bunt and give up an out to move a runner. And defense is being emphasized again. When it was just stick 8 guys out there, and I don't care where they play. We're just going to swing it. We're going to swing hard, and we're going to swing it.
Yeah.
I don't care if we catch it. We'll let in 8 and score 9. I mean, that was kind of the mentality for a number of years. And in the player's defense, you're going to chase the money. And if you're going to pay me for OPS and home runs, I'm going to try to hit them.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's getting back to baseball. So in Farhan's case, he had a recipe for success that maybe had a 2-year shelf life. The game has changed now, and I think he realizes that. And there is more speed. Somebody's realizing it.
Well,
somebody's realizing it. You got 6 Gold Gloves on one side of the infield. Somebody's realizing it.
I want our radio audience to know that you said that because I kind of made a little bit of a face when you said Farhan realizes it. I'm not saying he doesn't, but here's what I also see with regard to the philosophical shift. It feels like an ultimatum was placed, right?
Maybe.
A lot of people last year went, now why did Gabe get fired and not Farhan? And Farhan Zaidi is looking at this year like, I mean, look, we better go sign some people and do this a completely different way, or else I'm not going to be here, so what the hell do I have to lose? If I try this and it doesn't work, okay, because if I keep doing what I was doing, I'm going to be gone anyway.
But if you still had Gabe, Mark, guys don't want to get 2 at-bats a game.
Absolutely.
Starters don't want to be openers. Starters don't want to be closers. Starters want to start. Closers want to close. Closers like Brebbia that don't want to start games. And I don't want to, if I'm Michael Conforto and I sign a 2-year deal, I don't want to get pinch hit in the 4th inning. That wasn't Farhan. He wasn't pulling those strings during the game.
It also wasn't not Farhan. Like, again, this was part of the philosophy, and they all agreed.
Yes.
They all agreed.
Yes. You're right.
So
they were joined at the hip on their philosophy.
Yeah.
But it didn't work, and it wasn't conducive to signing players, and the fan base said, we don't like it. And here we are with a team that's going to be really good. We hope.
Absolutely. I agree.